Thank you, Stephen. I'm super excited to be here at SaaS Talk Blueprint and to talk about all things SaaS metrics and finance related. So Stephen mentioned, I'm Joyce. I'm the founder of Pega Fund. What we do is we support European B2B SaaS scale-ups with go-to-market strategy and financial planning. Before launching Pega Fund, I spent 10 years investing in I spent 10 years investing and advising software companies from startup to publicly traded businesses across Europe and the US. In working closely with venture-backed, high-growth companies, I realized that there was a clear recurring pattern when it came to scaling from product market fit to global go-to-market success. Many of these challenges boil down to a lack of financial literacy, as well as in-house expertise when it comes to SaaS businesses and evaluating different funding options. So I'd like to start off by first addressing some of the subconscious biases that most non-finance people have. Far too often, finance and operations is an afterthought, especially for first-time or inexperienced entrepreneurs. There's a lack of urgency to hire these leaders, and these leaders are only hired after the problems have occurred, which is typically when the growth slows or when the burn accelerates or after a failed fundraise. Within a scale-up, the common misconception is that it's a back office function revolving around salary, expenses, and tooling. While all of this is true, what is also true is not investing in a finance leadership team early on means that you're making decisions on gut instincts and blind faith rather than customer-centric, data-led business intelligence. This makes it near impossible to get to $10 million in ARR in a short amount of time. All the companies that I've worked with have successfully exited and raised capital to get there, invested quite early into exceptional finance leadership. And so finance is an essential scale-up leadership practice. It's not just a back office function. It's not just the numbers or the cash in the bank. It's not about the annoying reports that you put together in order to please your investors and board. It's not just a function of hiring new and expensive talent. It's essential for any high growth scale-up. It allows a company to make customer-centric decisions. It enables an organization to have a high growth mindset enabled by data and business intelligence. It empowers a high performance culture of mutual accountability and shared values. So in this session, I will touch upon unit economics and key SaaS metrics, but numbers are simply an output of great people. With experienced leaders, a business can be agile and grow quickly and predictably. So what we'll cover in this session is the fundamental concepts in financial literacy, the value a CFO brings, key SaaS metrics and why they matter, the day-to-day role of finance and operations, key tips for hiring and scaling and recruiting a SaaS CFO, and additional resources for reading at your own leisure. So let's jump right into a common area of confusion. A key reason why finance is underappreciated and undervalued is due to the lack of clarity around the numbers part of the business. Just as there's a difference between development, product, and design when it comes to the technical part of the organization, the numbers part can also be broken down into three distinct yet related concepts. They are accounting, finance, and economics. Accounting exists to make sure you are paying taxes properly as an employer and as a business. It ensures a company is in compliance with local governments where your business is incorporated, as well as industry regulation. Accounting also lays the foundation to make data-centric decisions by monitoring cash and its movements in and out of a company. Finance provides the basis for how a business is valued, whereas accounting is more or less industry agnostic, finance is specific to the industry, the type of business model, and overall growth strategy. This includes looking at key drivers of revenue and cost, as well as understanding concepts such as working capital, operating leverage, and financial leverage. These concepts are very different for a software company compared to, say, an e-commerce company. Economics is about understanding the forces of demand and supply and how it changes in different parts of a business cycle, and also in light of geopolitical dynamics. To do this well, you need to have lived through and experienced the bottom and the peak of one or more economic cycles, in addition to having a solid understanding of the overall industry landscape. This means intimately understanding the nuances of different players in an ecosystem and how and why they coexist and rely on each other. For a SaaS leader, this means understanding public and private financial capital markets, including venture capital, growth equity, private equity, debt financing, corporates, governments, as well as other sources of growth funding. An experienced SaaS CFO is able to tie together all three concepts to evaluate both risk and reward, just like a savvy investor would. An experienced CFO thinks like an investor and acts like a business owner. This means she or he takes into account everything related to vision, to market, to customers, to talent, to competition, go-to-market, and incorporates overall strategy and planning into scaling growth. She does this in a data-centric manner that maximizes optionality for the business. And to do this well, it means she needs to grasp quite quickly the maturity and complexity of a business, which first begins with data quality. It's important to measure everything that matters, automating data and BI as much as possible, and having full control and visibility over where money is spent. Now, the deliverable of doing all this is to produce key SaaS metrics which reflect business value and what is driving that value. These metrics can then be used to communicate continuously and consistently within a business, be benchmarked to peers, and used as a tool to align with investor and board interests. The key ones to focus on are ARR, or what is otherwise known as annual recurring revenue, and the breakdown of that ARR on a monthly or quarterly basis. This reflects essentially how much scale a company has. For most B2B SaaS businesses, economies of scale is achieved at $10 to $30 million in ARR, depending on your product and the market you're going after. Now, ACV and TCV, which stands for annual contract value and total contract value, is a reflection of pricing and segmentation strategy that a company is going after. Gross margin is net of the cost to deliver a product. This reflects both go-to-market fit and scalability of a solution. Cash runway shows how much time a startup or scale-up has to deliver on the next business milestone or valuation inflection point. Now, CAC and CAC payback, which measures how much it costs to acquire a customer and how efficient the acquisition channel is often the key metric that a lot of startups and scale-ups get wrong. The reason it's super important to get this metric right is because it provides insights into where you're over or under investing from a marketing sales perspective. And it's a key metric in determining how quickly and how efficiently a company will scale going forward. Churn demonstrates customer delight. It reflects both product market fit and also go-to-market fit. Gross and net retention on a dollar and logo basis shows how long a customer will stay. This directly feeds into LTV. LTV stands for lifetime value, which reflects the total wallet share a customer logo could be over time. And lastly, capital efficiency shows the scalability and predictability of the SaaS commercial engine. There are a lot of different ways to measure this. So one example would be ARR per full-time employee. At typically 100 to 300 full-time employees or more, you can apply a general rule of thumb of looking at 100 to 150K ARR per employee to derive the ARR of the business. Now, all of these metrics need to be looked in total, in tandem and relative to each other. The numbers that are produced are a direct reflection of the leadership, the business maturity, and go-to-market success. And the other thing that an experienced CFO is also great at is managing both internal and external stakeholders within a business. She does this first by de-risking, which is providing full visibility and control over cash and growth. Secondly, through measurement, so transitioning everyone away from instinct, but into inputting great quality data and making data-led decisions. Thirdly, communication, which highlights insights from BI, and then presenting leadership and the business with options for growth, including external funding. And then lastly, and most importantly as well, alignment, optimizing and executing on desired funding as well as M&A strategy based on key company objectives. This means that the role of a CFO is actually quite involved from a day-to-day basis. In fact, a very experienced SaaS CFO will cover both finance and operational needs and recruit the right talent to support her. The organizational setup and reporting structure ultimately really depends on the existing skill set of business leaders and the overall company strategy. So on this slide, you'll see there's a long list of business critical projects that finance and operations is involved in. The key takeaway for a high growth SaaS scale up is that with the right finance leadership on board, it ensures an organization is productive and a business is scaling predictably to go to market success on a global level. And by doing this, you create optionality, which in turn increases business value. So you're probably wondering, like, when is the right time to hire finance leadership in order to make better, faster decisions and create optionality and value? Well, for a high growth, ambitious startup, you begin laying the foundation before a Series A funding round. Before reaching $1 million in ARR, you need to have great data quality and integrity in which you can start to derive business intelligence and insights. You also need to have a data-centric culture ingrained in your organization. Otherwise, like technical debt, you end up incurring too much organizational debt when it comes to data quality and decision-making that it's super challenging to fix and comes at the cost of growth. So for those of you who are also Formula One fans like I am, not having an experienced SaaS CFO is essentially like having a team without a chief aerodynamicist who is there to support the best performance in the shortest amount of time. So on this slide, I've laid out 10 tips to successfully hiring an experienced SaaS CFO. We've covered a lot of the points already. The one that I'll point out is the last one, which summarizes in a nutshell tips 1 to 9. At the end of the day, you want to hire a CFO who can grow with the business, because the CFO is typically the number 2 from a leadership perspective, especially in a mature growth or public company. That means from early on, you want to work with someone you can fully trust, who thinks like a SaaS investor and behaves like a hands-on business owner. For those of you that are curious to read more about finance leadership, here's a list of some practical content produced by other investor operators. I hope you found this session valuable, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions at all following SaaS Doc Blueprint. Back to you, Stephen.
Thank you so much. That was a fantastic talk, Joyce, and it's always important to for us to hear how important the finance function is to actually the growth and the rate of growth of a SaaS company, not just a functional aspect of a business, a necessary functional aspect. So you really outlined that in great detail. Thank you so much, Joyce.
Thank you, Stephen.